Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I have another laundry chat for you guys. Today I am going to be sharing probably the most personal video I have ever made and shared on YouTube. And I am doing so with my basket of laundry because I need to get this folded. And I'm just gonna have a chat with you guys about something super Okay, so the reason why I decided that I was going to open up and share about this on YouTube is because being a personal trainer, I get the opportunity to talk to a lot of you guys out there, a lot of you women who message me and have shared with me that you also have received this same diagnosis. So no, the title is not clickbait. It is not just trying to get people to click on the videos. This is actually a true story that happened to me, and I am sharing it because a lot of you have shared with me that this is something that you've been diagnosed with, and you basically feel like it's a death sentence when it comes to weight loss and fitness. So I just wanted to open up and talk to you guys about it. And that is the diagnosis of polycystic ovary syndrome. I received that diagnosis about 2 years ago, and mine is a pretty severe case. And I have experienced many unpleasant things due to the polycystic ovary syndrome. I'm not going to really go into the science of what it is, but I will have links down below if you guys just want to read up on what polycystic ovary syndrome is, obviously from like a doctor's perspective or voice versus me just trying to explain what it is. But basically it's a hormonal issue that causes your ovaries to not fully release an egg each month. So for every woman that's going to look different. Some women do not have menstrual cycles at all. Some have menstrual cycles but they never ovulated, and there's a whole host of unpleasant side effects that go along with it. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I am folding my laundry, but the side effect that most women experience that have polycystic ovary syndrome is, it's very hard to lose weight. And that is why I've received so many messages about I've been diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, and when I share with them that that is also a diagnosis that I have received, they are all kind of stunned, like they can't believe that I actually have the same condition they have. And the reason why is because I've been able, obviously, to manage my weight, but polycystic ovary syndrome is like a spectrum. There are people on the very minimal side of the spectrum, and there are people on the very top end of the spectrum. So anywhere in here you can fall. And it's a very common misconception as well that everyone that has polycystic ovary syndrome is overweight, because there is a specific name, and I don't like the name, but this is the medical name for it. It's called thin polycystic ovary syndrome, and it is basically where you experience all of those unpleasant hormonal and physical side effects of having this condition, but you're just not overweight. And so never judge a woman by the cover, because you never know what's going on internally, even having the same diagnosis as you. So just to give you guys some history with me, I do have 4 kids. They were all conceived naturally. I did have 3 miscarriages in a row between my child number 2 and child number 3. All 3 of the miscarriages were around the same gestational age, and because of my age at the time, I was very young. in my early 20s, and because the gestational age was the same, my amazing OBGYN at the time looked into it because he just felt like something had to have been off. Now, mind you, I conceived my first 2 children without any issue, any problem, and though my daughter, my oldest daughter, who is 10, was the first time I had ever become pregnant, and it was literally the same month as I stopped taking birth control. We were getting married that month, and my OBGYN recommended that I stop taking it. At the time, I was seeing a different doctor. And I had started taking oral contraceptive very young, in my early teen years, because I had quite painful menstrual cycles from the time I was pretty much since they came. And so I started taking birth control to help with that. So by the time my husband and I were getting married, I had been on birth control about 6 years without ever stopping. And so my OBGYN at that time told me, yeah, it'll probably take a little while for your body to adapt to not having it. So you might want to consider, stopping it if having a baby soon after we were married was something we wanted to do. And we had discussed it, and we did want to have a child pretty soon after we got married. So I went ahead and stopped taking my birth control, and she came about very quickly, and it was no problem. My second son, I conceived after she was born. I conceived him without ever having a menstrual cycle after giving birth. So my oldest was 5 months old when I found out I was pregnant with baby number 2. I never got a period because I was exclusively breastfeeding her, and I was not fully informed on how your body works when you are exclusively breastfeeding, and I just assumed, since I had never had a cycle, that I wasn't ovulating, and that assumption was wrong, because when she was only 5 months old, I found out I was pregnant with him. So those were my 2 pregnancies. They were fine. They were fine. So that leads me up until we decided we were going to probably finish off our family with baby number 3, and this was actually the only time we ever tried to conceive. And that is when I had the 3 miscarriages in a row. So lots of stuff happening there. Very, very difficult time emotionally, very isolating time. I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. I don't have any sisters. So it was just a very lonely time for me. There weren't many people that I could share kind of how I was feeling with at the time. So my doctor ran a bunch of tests because he could see that it was really taking a toll on me, and I was diagnosed with a blood clotting disorder called MTHFR. I will also link that down below for you guys. And so once I was diagnosed with that, I was put on blood thinners, and once I was cleared to try to conceive again, I conceived baby number 3, who is named Landon, and I was on blood thinners the whole time I was pregnant with him because of this blood clotting disorder that I never knew I had, and pregnancy was fine. He was born at 37 weeks, and after the emotional trauma of having miscarriages and not really being able to talk about them or process them, I was pretty much done having kids, at least for a while. I didn't think that I could handle it. I was really struggling with anxiety at the time over all things pregnancy related because of the bad things that had happened before. I was very paranoid pregnant. I just had a lot of bad thoughts going on in my head, you could imagine. So I was pretty much done with him. Well, sidebar, and this is part of this video is going to be pretty personal, Because of my blood clotting disorder, I could no longer take birth control because birth control makes you at a higher risk for blood clots. So couple that with someone who naturally clots easier. My doctor told me you should never, and I had changed OBGYNs after my first daughter was born. So this doctor is like, he's near and dear to my heart. And I still keep in touch with him to this day. So what he said, I fully trusted. You know, you can't take birth control anymore because, and he wouldn't even like give me a prescription for it. So the only option I had was a non-hormonal IUD, and I am just weird, or I don't know what you would call it, maybe not weird. I don't like medicine. I don't like foreign objects in my body, and it just did not sit well with me. So we just planned to be very cautious about not having another baby, especially because I had just had him. I think we were thinking more long term, we might make some actual like changes. But when he was only 7 months old, history repeated itself and I became pregnant again with my 4th child. So this was 4 kids in 4 years, 3 miscarriages combined in there. So after her, I was pretty much done having kids, and I also had C-sections. So my OBGYN pretty much told me, like, since you can't take birth control and natural family planning didn't work out for you guys, I really think that you should consider having a tubal. And I really struggled with that decision because I always wanted more than I wanted. Once I had her and I kind of got through some of the difficulty, her pregnancy was almost like healing, because it happened naturally. It was like, I don't know, there was something about it. I wasn't as paranoid as I was before. And so we just weren't sure about doing something permanent. But once we considered everything, we just felt like that was probably the route we needed to go, because for my safety and my health, I really couldn't just have another C-section the following year to make it 5. So I went ahead and, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, you guys. I went ahead and had my tubes tied when she was born, which was in December of 2011. So I was 25, I think, 24 or 25. And after that, you know, I had to like process and kind of grieve the idea of ever having any more kids. Okay, so fast forward, it was hard. It was not something that I knew it was probably the right thing to do, but that was a head decision. My heart had not caught up with it. So fast forward to her, I breastfed her until 18 months. And the reason why that's important is because when you're breastfeeding, your hormones have not returned to normal. And you guys can see, before ever having kids, from the onset of my menstrual cycles, I was on some type of hormonal birth control. Then I got pregnant, then I was nursing, then I got pregnant, then I was nursing, then I got pregnant and miscarried, pregnant and miscarried, pregnant and miscarried. Then I got pregnant and had him, nursing, pregnant, nursing. So my whole history from the time I was about 14 until the time I was about 25, my hormones were not like naturally working. So that's important, because about when she was 2 or 3, in between 2 and 3, I started experiencing like really bad back pain, like really, really bad, almost like a popping sensation in my ovaries. When I would get my menstrual cycles, I would bloat to the point of looking like I was 5 or 6 months pregnant, and I'm not exaggerating. It was bad. When I would get my cycles, they would be so painful that I couldn't really function. And then TMI, if you clicked on this video, you know I'm gonna talk about some female stuff. The bleeding was horrible. like losing a ton of blood, my energy, I would have a headache. I just felt like my time of the month affected me 20 times more than the average woman. And so after a while of that, I kind of was like, I think something is wrong. I wonder if I have a cyst or something like that. So I went to my doctor for my annual, and I mentioned to him all of my symptoms. So he wanted to do an ultrasound, and that's when they discovered my ovaries. Basically, when you have normal functioning ovaries, every single month your body releases an egg, the egg matures, and then eventually when you ovulate is released. My ovaries had about 10 or 15 looked like eggs in each of them. And those were eggs that never made it fully mature, so they were like the follicles. So my doctor said, your ovaries look like chocolate chip cookies, and that was not a compliment. So I was diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome then. And then they basically looked into like my blood work, because when you're diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, you can have elevated testosterone levels. That's why sometimes women that have this will struggle with hair growth in places that they don't want it. I definitely experienced that. So my testosterone level was elevated. My estrogen was very down in the dumps, and along with many other things. So basically I was diagnosed with this, but the part that was the kicker was I had already been back into fitness. I was working. Fitness was already a job of mine. And and they tested my A1C levels, which is like your blood sugar levels when you're just over an average time frame. And even though I was already eating healthy, even though I was at a healthy weight, because of the polycystic ovary syndrome and developing insulin resistance and my family history, my A1C resting level was borderline pre-diabetic. And so that was like so enraging, because here I am doing everything I can to be healthy and eat right, and my body is like fighting against me. So that has been a struggle. That is part of why I am so passionate about fitness, because I can't afford to not be. I will become diabetic if I didn't stay vigilant, basically. And the hormonal side effects of polycystic ovary syndrome are very difficult to deal with. I really sometimes struggle with like my hormone balance, my energy levels, just my desire for like intimacy. It's just like I struggle a lot with all of those things. So that is my story from being fertile and having 4 kids to infertility. Infertility because even if I did not have a tubal ligation, which I did have, I would not be able to conceive my children naturally without the help of Clomid or even IVF. And my egg quality, which they also tested just for me to know, is that of about a 40-year-old, and I am 30. So it is a blessing and a miracle that I have 4 kids. If I would have waited until I was 30 to begin a family, I would have a very different outcome. So I'm so grateful to God for my kids, and grateful that I had them when I did, even though everyone thought we were kind of crazy. So yeah, you guys, I have about 1 more shirt to fold, but I just wanted to get on here and share my story of how I found out that I have polycystic ovary syndrome, and also just let you guys know that if you are out there and you have been diagnosed with it, you can manage it. You can manage your weight. It does not mean that you're going to be overweight forever. You do have to work a little bit more vigilantly, but I just wanted to share with you guys, because so many of you have reached out to me and let me know that this is something you have been diagnosed with. So I thought it was time for me to open up and share. So that is going to be it for this laundry chat. Thanks so much for watching and listening to kind of a personal story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you haven't already. It just helps support my channel and keeps me motivated to keep creating videos for you guys. So I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys. I will link that across. If you have not seen that video,